Welcome to SuperTalk, the podcast that scratches your superhero itch. Just two suburban dads nerding out over superhero stuff on the small screen and the big. Buckle up, people. Enjoy the ride.
Welcome to SuperTalk, the weekly podcast dedicated to news and reviews of comic book media on the big and small screen. This is episode 135. I'm your host, Brian Professor Pettis, and with me, as always, my illustrious co-host, Titanium Tony Estrella.
You know, we had a couple of discussions this week, and both of us to the tipping point of frustration. And then you said, "Oh, I got an idea for our next show," and I was like, you know, it might be time.
I think it is time.
I know you're ready.
Yeah.
But
I'm angry. So, let's not delay, because I think we've got a lot to talk about this week. So let's just get moving on this, because we do want to cover some things. Look, frankly, you and I have been talking about when are we going to do our next show, because there's really not a lot going on right now.
Not a lot going on.
Not a lot going on. No new shows coming out for a while. No new movies coming out for a while. So like, when are we? Well, we want this topic to be discussed. We're going to discuss it today.
Let's go.
All right, so let's go. First, we want to thank the listeners that bring the show to you. Patrons. These are patrons of the show. Patreon.com/SuperTalk is how you become a member. Thanks to all of our patrons out there. Really appreciate your support. And if you want to join, Patreon.com/SuperTalk. All right, let's get in. One thing I did want to mention, a quick review. This past week, DC Animation did release a new animated movie. This is Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. So they had a run of animated movies that went on actually 3 or 4 years, and it was based on the New 52 timeline of the comic books. That timeline was basically ended with the Justice League Dark Apocalypse War movie that came out a couple of years ago, probably like 3 years ago at this point in time, maybe even longer. They then started a brand new, they basically rebooted the animated universe and came out with a Superman Man of Tomorrow movie. And they've had several movies in that timeline or that universe since then. And the movies that came out this week is a two-parter. It is based on the comic book storyline of Crisis on Infinite Earths. And this was part 1. There's going to be a part 2.
Arguably one of the most popular.
Yeah, back in the 80s. I mean, this was a storyline that was penned by Marv Wolfman back in, like 85, 86 timeline. And frankly, it was born from the fact that the DC universe had existed for a really long time at that point in time. And it had become very complicated and complex. So complicated that many of the readers of the comic books felt it was difficult to keep track of everything that was going on, because you had certain characters that were in certain universes and certain characters were on other worlds, and it was really hard for a new reader to pick up a book and figure out what was going on.
Right. So
they wanted an opportunity to reboot the DC universe and bring everybody into the same shared universe in the comic books. And that's what they did with the Crisis on Infinite Earths storyline. It follows a character that was that really actually first was shown up in the Teen Titans comic books, called the Monitor, and then it was his alter ego, the Anti-Monitor, who were they basically were fighting against each other, and worlds were being destroyed and universes were being destroyed. It's basically a multiverse storyline. Funny enough, very similar to what Marvel's going through right now.
Yeah.
And includes a lot of characters from different different timelines and different universes coming together to help stop this multi-universe annihilation that's going on. Ultimately, the comic book storyline ended with the death of Barry Allen, the Flash, which was, at the time, back in the mid 80s, he was a very popular character. He died in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Wally West took over the mantle of the Flash at that point in time. He was Kid Flash, and then he took over as Flash after Crisis. But this really started a new genre, or we'll say a new age for DC Comics. It was called the post-Crisis age.
Mm-hmm.
They actually went through, funny enough, they went through a very almost identical situation several years later when they did another reboot. Jeff Johns was the writer of that comic book storyline, and that was the Flashpoint storyline with the Flash, where Flash goes back in time, and then when he comes back, everything's changed, and that was the new 52. So they basically hit the big time reset button on the entire DC comic universe and
rebranded it as New 52.
They eliminated all of their titles, and they came out with 52 brand new titles, and that's why it was called the New 52. 52 brand new comic books, and the idea was you could pick up from here and you can figure out what's going on, and everybody's together and all that other stuff. But yeah, it was and I watched it this past week. It was really good. Heavily focused on the Flash characters, you can imagine, but really well done, and I'm looking forward to the second part. I'm not sure when. I think it comes out in a few months, but anyway, go check it out. It's available on pay-per-view right now, or rental. You can rent it on the streaming services right now. I'm sure it will be coming to HBO Max probably in like a month and a half or so after they've had their time to get some rental revenue out of it. So anyway, good one.
Great.
All right, well, let's jump into some news. So we talked about, I think on last episode, that they were looking for a new person to play the Sentry, and our internet scoopster Daniel RPK was the first to report this, and then it was reported in the Hollywood Reporter later that day. So Daniel RPK actually scooped the scoopsters, which was kind of interesting. But the story now is that Lewis Pullman, he probably remember him most from the Top Gun Maverick movie. He played Bob.
Yeah.
So that was his call. What's your call sign? What's your name? I'm Bob. What's your call sign? Bob. It's just Bob. But that's the actor who's been offered the role as Sentry in the Thunderbolts. No confirmation from Marvel that he's accepted the role, but basically it's been reported that he has been given the offer for the role. So hopefully we have a Sentry. That movie is scheduled to begin filming sometime in the March-April timeframe this year. They are ramping up the filming schedule.
Completely see him as the Sentry.
Oh, for sure.
Way better than Steven Yeun, right?
Steven Yeun. Yeah, the voice of Invincible.
Yeah, absolutely. I can completely see him. He was also in that movie, something Royale with Chris Hemsworth. That movie, there was something Royale. Really good movie, crazy movie.
Yeah, and he was also in Lessons in Chemistry recently on Apple TV with Brie Larson.
Yeah,
he was also played her love interest in that television series. So anyway, good luck to him. Hopefully this movie gets kicked off and starts filming. Again, I know that Marvel is back in the thralls of trying to get production running on a lot of these projects that were delayed because of the strikes, and this is one of them. And hopefully we're marching towards a 2025 release, maybe getting some announcements in July when we go to Comic-Con. So that'll be great. Big news, Deadpool 3 has wrapped principal photography. Ryan Reynolds actually sent out a tweet on X here this past week that they had wrapped, and he was thanking the friends and his actors and the production team and the filming team, making sure that everybody. He said it was a very sad moment because they finally finished, but happy and sad at the same time. But they're on track for a July release. July release. They
barring any reshoots or anything.
Well, yeah, and he said, I basically, with the fact that they did some filming before the strikes and then came back and completed principal photography after the strike, I think they were able to kind of adjust what they needed to do in that time frame. Reshoots highly unlikely at this point in time because they had so much time off to figure it all out.
Hope not.
But yeah, we're really. Frankly, it's the only thing I'm really excited about this year coming from Marvel.
Yeah, in our topic of the week, we can kind of throw that in there as a little caveat. But yeah, Bad Times at the El Royale was the movie. Chris Hemsworth. It's a pretty good movie. Okay. And he plays, he's one of the main characters in it, but he plays this, I don't know how to say it. He's got this kind of bizarre personality, great actor. And I think he'd be great at playing like a schizophrenic.
That's this
right. A schizophrenic.
Yeah, that's what we're going to get with the Sentry, right?
Yeah, mentally ill kind of superhero. I think he'd be perfect.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. Some new leaked photos came out from Deadpool 3 here recently, the past week, showing multiple iterations of Deadpool on screen at the same time. As a matter of fact, there was Deadpool in his normal costume, and then there was Ryan Reynolds with a long blonde ponytail in a Deadpool costume, and then there was Hugh Jackman sitting next to them, and
Deadpool dog.
Dogpool. They were holding the dog. So we're thinking there's going to be kind of an iteration of the Deadpool core in this movie with all the different versions of Deadpool that have shown up in the comic books over the years, and it would make all the sense in the world from a Ryan Reynolds perspective to do something like that. So, let's just and we are going to get a trailer. We're hoping for during the Super Bowl, get our first teaser. That would be awesome. I'm super excited for this project. So hopefully things are going well there. So we got some more reports this past week that Ryan Reynolds was back in meeting with Marvel again. He had previously met with Kevin Feige to discuss some possible roles in the future. Now the reports are that he was back in to discuss the Nova project. So we were told many months ago, probably a year ago, that they were planning on doing a Nova project, whether it was going to be a special presentation or a limited series or a theatrical release. We weren't sure of, but there were numerous reports that they were working on a Nova project. Those, when Bob Iger came back in, that was one of the projects that really slipped really far out in the future. Like we didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like now this project is not dead. It is very much alive, and highly likely now that Ryan Gosling is going to be attached to this project. And I would not be surprised if we saw something from them in regards to this character prior to Secret Wars. It just makes a lot of sense in the world.
I mean, Ryan Gosling, they've attached him to Ghost Rider.
That's who he wanted to play.
That's who he originally wanted to play, which I think Keanu Reeves would be great for that. But Ghost Rider or Nova, and I think he's warmed to Nova as well. I think he'd be great at that.
Oh, it'd be awesome.
And that'd be the type of Hollywood star that you would want to pull in that big.
Yeah, I mean, and again, if you're marching towards this Avengers 5 / Secret Wars in the future, like this big, you want these A-list stars to be part of that. And again, with
Oscar nominated.
Right. Yeah. And with the departure of some of the, former A-list stars from the MCU, you kind of need to bring some new blood in, even if we're not sure if people like Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr. will be coming back for Secret Wars. Nothing confirmed. I mean, this is so many years out in the future now as the schedule's been revamped. I mean, we're looking at 2027, 2028 before those movies come out. But heck, they'll be in their, 70s by then, probably. Right?
Probably as old as we are. Yeah. We'll be wearing diapers.
Yeah. So anyway, that another story about Ryan Gosling, which was interesting. Wonder Man is filming in LA right now. So this was another project that was put on hiatus because of the Actors Guild strike and the writer's strike.
Yeah, I've seen some set photos from that, the dark web.
Yeah, really, really cool looking. Again, you had mentioned this before that he's going to be playing the actor. In the show, he's a Hollywood actor and stuntman in the show, which he was in the comic books as well. Which is it was Simon Williams was a actor and stuntman. But when he was in the comic books, he had his superpowers when he was doing all that stuff. He didn't get them like kind of during it. But from what we understand about the plot, he will be getting his powers as part of an accident or something that happens while he's acting or doing stunts. So we'll see that. I think it'll be great. Wonder Man's a great character. One of the older Avengers characters that they've really kind of ignored. They missed out on an entire opportunity in the storyline with Vision.
Part of the West Coast Avengers, right? Yeah.
One of the founding members of the West Coast Avengers. But yeah, missed out on an entire storyline.
The premise is really cool if they do it right.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Really cool. So that'll be really great to see. So hopefully, and again, they're filming in LA right now. So I would anticipate that this is probably going to be on the schedule sometime next year in 2025 as a release. Daredevil Born Again is back filming again in New York. They're back on set. They're filming. Lots of set photos have leaked. We have seen Karen Page and Foggy Nelson on set. So we've seen them. We've seen them, with Daredevil, Matt Murdock specifically walking down the streets.
Was it Nelson, Murdoch, Page, Murdoch, Nelson?
It's Nelson, Murdoch, Page.
Nelson, Murdoch, Page.
Yeah. But we've seen them on set, which is fantastic. Also got some leaked photos over the past couple of days of the White Tiger in costume on set as well. This is a character that's been featured in a number of in the comic books, absolutely, but Also been featured in some of the animated projects that Marvel's done over the years, as a female, gender swap female. But the White Tiger characters looks like going to be part of this television show, and we know um, Bullseye is back.
Yep.
Bullseye is back. The actor confirmed that he is back with the show as well.
Now, is John Bernthal involved?
Yeah, yeah. So Punisher is in. I think we know this this television project went through a number of rewrites again. They basically scrapped everything they had filmed before, redid the script, and started again from scratch, which is good because from what we understand or what we heard, it was pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, from what we heard, it wasn't until after the 4th episode we actually saw Daredevil in
his
suit.
costume.
Yeah.
And but yeah, theoretically, John Bernthal still attached to this project as the Punisher. Now, the early storyline that he was going to be part of in the original series may have changed because of the rewrites, but I do believe he's in. He was supposed to be hunting down like corrupt cops or something like that. And so we'll see. Hopefully he's back.
Nice.
And we believe Jessica Jones is going to be in this. We know the Kingpin's going to be in this.
Right.
So, and one of the things that we did find out too was that it's been reduced from 18 episodes down to 13.
Yeah, which is great. I think is
much more consumable.
Yeah. I mean, even the Netflix shows, as good as they were, there were some filler episodes that were kind of slow, and the episodes were kind of slow. I think
those were all 13 episodes too.
And I think this picks up the pace a little bit of what they originally had planned. So we'll see.
Hopefully, good action packed, and and again, the number of characters that are attached to this project is great. I know Kevin Feige's been a big proponent of expanding this street level version of the MCU, and this, Daredevil's a big part of that. So that'd be great. You had mentioned me earlier today that looks like the Fantastic Four is going through some more rewrites, huh?
Yeah. They hired some new writers, and they've taken the core of the story and they're rewriting some of it. But apparently, it's only a month and a half, month or two rewrites schedule for the new writers. So we should have a pretty solid script here by summer.
Yeah, and they're planning to start filming this summer. So again, I believe the original timeline was this spring, but I think they
no official announcements on castings.
No, and Matt Shackman did come out recently and said, expect something soon. I want to share this with you. I do have news to share with you. I just can't do it yet. Yeah. So he has basically said that he has news to share. He just hasn't yet. And I do expect that to happen sometime soon. And again, we hope that they're brought, if filming does begin in the summer, likely that they're going to be brought on stage in San Diego, to kind of showcase the cast and everything else, right? Hopefully that all works out.
That would be cool.
So another story hit the wire this past week. So there's a report that Sony is proposing that Spider-Man 4 bring back the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire versions of Spider-Man in the next iteration of Spider-Man 4. I know Kevin Feige and Marvel have wanted this movie to be much more of a grounded film, featuring Kingpin as the primary villain of the film, featuring some of his, cadre of villains like Hammerhead and Tombstone and some others.
Yeah.
But we know Daredevil was attached to this project.
Street level Thanos, right?
Right. We know Daredevil's been attached to be part of this as well. Potentially some of the other Defenders characters. But sounds like Sony wants it to be a bigger project than Marvel really wants it to be, and they're kind of discussing that right now, and they want to bring back Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield in this movie. I guess they're doubling down a little bit, right? It's like, hey, it was so successful in No Way Home. We should do it again. I don't know. I think you're maybe going to the well too many times there, but it was such a shock factor and it's just very well done. It's like, can you do it that well again? I don't know.
There's so many stories from the comics that they could pull from, so much rich history, successful history, that storylines that were successful and people really liked. Why do you have to go back to that? I mean, be original. I guess it's the money. I guess you're right. We'll get into it.
Agreed. Yep. So we'll see what happens with that. Again, that movie is going to be filming later this year as well. So we should get some updates on that, hopefully sometime this summer. Invincible season 2 resumes March 14th.
Finally, some good news.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that was announced this past week by Amazon. They released about, like a 30-second teaser trailer teasing the second half of the season being released March 14th. So we're really excited about that coming back and getting back to the end of the story of what's going on with
We're not
Omni-Man and what's happening with his son and I think again drawing from the comics themselves, the son comes back, with
I'm really
Invincible.
interested in their confrontation with the Vegemites.
The Vegemites. But yeah, so we're looking forward to that. And again, we'll cover that here on the
Great show. I
because
can't wait for that.
We do love that show for sure.
Hey, we're not Hollywood insiders. We're not Hollywood shills either, unless somebody wants to pay us to be, then we will be. But we're not big scoopers. We see stuff and we think it's interesting. We kind of share it here on the podcast for those that don't spend time on the dark web or don't follow all these maniacs. So I hope you enjoy our news.
Yeah, okay, so let's get into the topic of the week this week, and it's brought to us by our friends at Studio GG Studios, home of the main band, Corner of the Cob, and Studio G will apologize in advance.
I checked with them.
Okay.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
good?
I checked with our sponsor. When you're about to bash something and you're about to go into the deep end, a dark space, you want to check with your sponsors so you don't lose them. Now, I didn't ask permission. I just told them what we were going to do. And I said, listen, boys, you're going to like it. And you're going to stick with us. And they were like, yes, sir, Titanium, we got you.
All right.
They got our back.
Good to know. So let's kind of like set the stage here of really where this discussion is coming from. I think you and I have done the best we can. So when we started this podcast 3 years ago, we did the best we can to be fair, impartial, non-controversial, not draw attention to controversial subjects or topics.
We stayed away.
But at the same time, be honest with our reviews and honest with our opinions. We have in the past held back, where we had some thoughts probably that could have been aired that were like, probably best if we didn't make it part of the show. Today,
correct.
That ends.
Yeah, today that ends. Gloves are off, motherfuckers.
So this really was born after our last episode when so we reviewed Echo on Disney Plus last episode and had some pretty, I'll say, honest things to say about what we felt about the television program. And then just, I don't know, a few days afterwards, I was kind of reviewing it and thinking about what we said and, gave some more thought to everything that went into that program and how agenda driven and self-serving it was,
and politically correct
from Marvel's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of discussions about this amongst you and I and some of our friends, and I got angry. I got really mad because I was like, this is the state we're in right now. This is where we've been brought. We didn't ask to come here. We didn't demand that this happen. It just happened right under our noses.
Right.
And frankly,
to a media and a genre that we love, that we've loved our whole life. We grew up reading these comic books. We spend a lot of money going to see these shows and seeing events and going out of our way.
This set doesn't build itself.
This is a byproduct of pure love.
We started this podcast in 3 years ago, in January 2021. We started this podcast for two reasons. One, or actually I say three reasons. One, we were fans of the comic books themselves. We had history with the comic books. We had, we grew up reading them. We loved the characters. We loved the stories. And we were also massive fans of what most of the Hollywood studios had done with those characters to that point. And we were really, really excited about the future.
Mm-hmm.
January 2021, we were coming off of we're still kind of somewhat in a global pandemic at the time, kind of the second year of a pandemic. Many of the studios had to delay projects and push projects, but there was an enormous slate of content that had been released to us that said, hey, this is what's coming out over the next 3 or 4 years. And we were extremely excited about that.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we started the podcast was because Disney had launched their own streaming service, Disney Plus. They were going to be putting original programming on that centered around the same characters that were part of the MCU that we were very big fans of at the time. We're like, oh, this is a great opportunity. Not only are we going to be able to review theatrical releases, but we're also going to have this new streaming kind of content that's going to be coming out that we're going to have access to as well. So we were over the moon excited about doing this.
To the point where we started a podcast. So yeah.
And I'll say, in all honesty, in those 3 years, there has been one theatrical release that I've thought was great. One movie in 3 years was really, really good.
Spider-Man No Way Home.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
The only one out of all the studios. I'm not just, we are going to be bashing Marvel. Let's just be clear.
Yeah.
But even the DC movies have been lackluster. I mean, if you remember that year, we got Wonder Woman 84, pretty bad.
Awful.
So DC hasn't lived up to their end of the bargain either. But Marvel has just missed the mark.
Yeah.
And ever since Avengers Endgame, everything that we've gotten from that studio has been poor.
Yeah.
With one exception.
Right.
And I won't say, like, some of them have been tolerable. I wouldn't say poor. Like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was good. It wasn't great. It was good. I'll say Black Panther Wakanda Forever was good. It wasn't great. It was okay. So there's been things that have been tolerable.
Guardians for me was great for me. Spider-Man No Way Home was great for me. So those two I would put in a category of great, at least in my opinion.
But a large majority of the rest of the content has been lackluster, poorly received, not only in the box office, but in the ratings. So even the television programs they've released to Disney Plus have not done well. So much so that Bob Chapek was basically dismissed as the CEO, and Bob Iger had to come back in and fix everything. Because,
but did he?
Well, he's trying.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think, I do want to be fair here to some extent, because I believe that a lot of the work that Bob Iger came back in to do, and the agenda that he's pressed on Kevin Feige for cleaning things up, we have yet to see those results.
Okay.
So, and here's a good example of it, because Echo was done way before that happened.
Of course, the executive producers on that, you can see that.
Right.
People that are no longer with Disney are still listed as executive producers.
Right. But the show was filmed a long time ago.
Right.
Way before Bob Iger came back.
Uh-huh.
And they chose to squash it together, release it simultaneously, say, well, we invested some capital in this. Let's just get it out there, and whatever happens, happens. So, but what I'm saying is, I don't want to judge the work that Bob Iger's been forcing upon the studio by that show.
Okay.
What I do want to do is judge what we've gotten from Marvel up to this point. And as we alluded to earlier in our episode, a lot rides on Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
A lot rides on Deadpool 3. So much so that I will here and I'm going to say something very brazen here. If Deadpool 3 sucks, I will be shocked. If it sucks, if it's really bad, I will be completely shocked, because I trust in Ryan Reynolds. I trust in his writers. I trust in the director. I trust in Hugh Jackman. I think it's going to be a banger. If it sucks, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Because we got nothing else to talk about for at least another year, and it's just not worth it.
You mean you don't want to come back for Kraven the Hunter?
We'll do a special episode for that one.
Yeah, right.
But I think a lot from Marvel's perspective is right. And I think he's been given carte blanche for that reason.
And he's also gone to bat for his project big time. I've heard many things on the dark web about they've come to him and tried to change the script and tried to push
And he's like,
agendas
nope.
on him. And he's like, no, this is what it is. A matter of fact, I believe this is what I heard. This is all speculation, all rumor, of course. I heard he was signed up to do 12 projects as Deadpool or with that and writing credits on a lot of that. And now it's knocked down to 3 because he did not like being a part of those other projects where he didn't have full control. And he was going to be put in a situation
That he
where
didn't want to be in, right?
Deadpool was going to, you know, I don't know, maybe wear a Hawaiian shirt to a barbecue, you know, like Hulk, which I'm still really pissed off. So the pussification of Hulk is still really irritating me, but I think that is very, it's telling of what's happening in Marvel, right?
And that's just one example.
Yeah.
So what I did, I put together kind of a brief 2-page history, a brief 2-page history
Jesus.
of kind of what I'll say. Here's what I've gotten out of this. And this is the way that I feel about this. For 10 years from the original Iron Man in 2008 to Infinity War and Endgame 2018, 2019, basically 10 years, we got really good stuff from Marvel.
Yeah.
Really, really good stuff. There was a couple of snoozers in you know, mixed in there, you know, a couple of them that were like, they're okay.
Even Ant-Man did not do well in the box office, but I enjoyed the hell out of that movie.
Yeah, and Ant-Man the Wasp wasn't great, and you know, Thor Ragnarok wasn't great, and all this. It just you know, there's been Thor Ragnarok, Dark World wasn't great. There were some in there that were just kind of like, they're not really. But for the most part,
Of course.
they were pretty good films with good characters, good writing, good production, good special effects, everything that we expected from Marvel. And I believe at that point in time, even we'll kind of talk about when this actually really happened, they said, you know what? We've got some capital. We've earned this capital amongst our fan base. We've gotten you know, our box office returns are astronomical. We're making billions of dollars. You know,
They were
we're
unstoppable.
multi-billion-dollar corporation. We're doing fantastic. And we have this great fan base who knows us and loves us and goes to our movies and will support us through thick and thin. You know, they'll come see us at Comic-Con. They'll do all these great things. We've got capital. So we've got some things we want to do and some things that we think we should do. And we're going to start doing those things. And our fans will still be there. They'll still support us. They'll still like us. They'll still come to the movies. And they're like, well, let's just do it because it's what we want to do. You and I as fans didn't ask for any of it.
No.
We didn't demand it. We didn't say, hey, why aren't you doing X, Y, and Z? Hey, why isn't this character in there? Hey, now there may be some people saying that.
A small minority of people, yeah.
There may be some people saying, I'm not saying nobody said it. What I'm saying is we as the core fan base that up until that point had supported this industry or this studio were very happy with what they were doing. But they started to think that they could do other things and we'd be okay with it. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not fucking okay with it.
Right.
I'm throwing the parental rating out the window this episode. I'm not okay with it because, as you mentioned, Titanium, these are characters that we love and we've loved for a long, long time. These were films. The first 10 years of films were films that we, for the most part, really liked. And you've effing ruined it.
Yeah.
You have really ruined it. You've ruined our enjoyment. I can't remember. I think, again, Spider-Man No Way Home might have been the last time I was happy watching a movie in a theater that's come out from Marvel, like openly happy and giddy about
Excited,
it.
yeah.
I'm not only excited to go see it, but excited when I saw it and excited to talk about it when I came out of there. I haven't had that in a long, long time. They've sucked.
Same. Guardians 3 in that movie, same for me.
Yeah, I enjoyed Guardians 3. I did enjoy it, but I wasn't like, oh my God, that was so awesome.
Yeah,
Right?
I did. I thought it was awesome.
But
Great way to close it out.
yeah, but again, I think this agenda and where this agenda is coming from and who's pushing the agenda all up for speculation, but there is an agenda. It's clear there's an agenda out there.
Now, yes.
It's clear. And Echo was kind of the icing on the cake of this agenda from my perspective. Is like, are you effing kidding me?
Mhm.
And I'm fucking tired of it. I mean, I'm just so look, and if you want Marvel bashing and MCU and all these other things, there's plenty of videos out there on the internet talking about it. There's plenty of people that have been doing this for
Woke
months.
Disney. DEI is ruining Disney. DEI is ruining.
Yeah, do a search
Marvel.
on YouTube
Yeah,
of woke and DEI and Marvel and Disney.
We've always stayed away from it. Always. We always try to be fair. But ladies and gentlemen, if it quacks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it's a duck.
And it pisses me off because, again, for the large majority of their history, Marvel took a large set of rich history in the comic books and translated that to the big screen. And that's what we loved about it. And they've chosen to divert from that. They've said, hey, what if this character was this instead of this, or this character did this or had these powers? And what if and it's just like they're bastardizing the history that the reason why we went to these is because you were basing everything on the history that we loved. And now you're just making up your own stories because it fits your fucking agenda.
Yeah.
And it pisses me off.
Yeah.
So I wrote down many examples in Marvel's past where this started to rear its ugly head a little bit, and then it's become painfully evident in the last 3 years.
I'm excited to see. I haven't seen this yet. I'm excited to see it.
So, and I think some of this is based on this person who is no longer with the studio. So Victoria Alonso was hired by Marvel in 2006, before Iron Man even came out. Was hired by Marvel Studios in 2006. Victoria Alonso is a Hispanic, LGBTQ female who is incredibly outspoken about diversity and inclusion. Incredibly outspoken about it.
She's an activist.
And they openly an activist.
No question.
And they knew this when they hired her. And she was put in many different positions within Marvel Studios to influence these events. And so I'm not saying she's to blame for all of them, but I guarantee she had influence over many of them.
Agree.
Okay. So that's history. 2006, she was part of Marvel Studios. So the first example of this was when Marvel, in the end credit scene of the first Iron Man, revealed to us that they had hired Samuel L. Jackson to play Nick Fury. I say that this is a very successful example of where potentially race swapping a character worked. And while they did it, there was history behind it. So Nick Fury is a character that's been around in the comic book since the 40s. Okay. Nick Fury's been around since the 40s. And the Nick Fury that was in the comic books for decades was a crusty old man.
Yeah.
Crusty old white guy. I don't think anybody at Marvel or anywhere wanted a crusty old white guy to play that role. Marvel came out in the early 2000s with a brand new comic book series called The Ultimates, and it was a completely new universe, and it was a way for Marvel to say, if you've never read Marvel comics, you don't know anything about these characters, start reading the Ultimates editions, and we are basically taking you from origin story to, new stories of these characters in a different universe. And it was a way for you to pick it up from scratch.
Yep.
And in the Ultimates universe, Nick Fury was African-American.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So there was precedent for this. And so this was a brilliant decision. And again, one of those decisions that Marvel made that I thought was incredibly successful. And I'm not saying that all these decisions they made were agenda-driven decisions, because they might not have been. And I'm not saying the ones that they made were bad, because some of them were actually good. And I'll talk about the ones that were successful. But that's just one example. And again, I was very happy about that. I don't think anybody would say Samuel L. Jackson hasn't been a good Nick Fury. He's been fantastic. Even in the stinker series, Secret Invasion, Nick Fury was the best part of that
Yeah.
series.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I mean, Samuel Jackson was the best part of that series. So he's been fantastic in that role. And I'm glad they cast him in that role. Okay. In Iron Man 2, we had Natasha Romanoff as an undercover secretary working for
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark, and ultimately revealed herself to be the Black Widow character. Again, a very successful integration of a strong female heroine character in a movie. They did great with that. She established herself as a badass in that movie, and I couldn't wait to see her in the next project.
Yeah.
And in every project she's been attached to, she's been awesome.
Mhm.
We'll talk about the one that wasn't awesome. So that was great, and I thought that was done really well. Pepper Potts. We all know Pepper. Pepper from the first couple Iron Man movies. Iron Man 3 comes
Love
out.
interest, Tony
Yeah,
Stark.
Tony Stark's
Started off secretary.
now, president of the company / they're married, right? So they're together. And again, comic book history behind that, no problem. But in Iron Man 3, she wears the Iron Man suit. I'm like, okay, that was kind of a cool little plot thing where he put the suit on her and she wore it, and she helped save him, and then but she ends up getting like extremist powers and becomes this like unstoppable hero at the end of the movie. I'm like, all right, what did they never really address? How that was cured, how it was fixed, how it was solved.
Right.
I mean, it was like,
He made some comment like, I almost figured this out 20 years ago in a hotel room. I can figure you out. So he made allusions that he could fix her.
kind of like right before the credits, he was saying stuff like that. But yeah, but again, another example of, empowerment, female empowerment, I think, within the movie. That
didn't bother me.
No, it didn't either. It was a great part of the movie.
Yeah.
Didn't bother me.
Not as much as Endgame, but we'll get there.
So then Marvel reveals that they had cast Brie Larson, Oscar winner, recent Oscar winner. She had just won an Oscar for her portrayal in The Room, the movie The Room. They had cast Brie Larson to play Captain Marvel. Announced they were bringing Captain Marvel to the MCU, a leading hero type of character. And they cast her in that role. That movie did fairly well in the box office. Made, I think,
billion.
Close to $1 billion,
Yeah,
right? 900 million, something like that. It did very well in the box office. And
even though Sam Jackson probably had just as much screen time.
Yeah. And you and I've joked about this in the past. It had the warmest lead in to a Marvel movie ever.
Oh yeah.
It was right between Infinity War and Endgame, and we all knew that she wasn't in Infinity War but was in the end credit scene and was going to be in Endgame. And so we wanted to see where this character was going to fit in and how this was going to work. So a lot of people went to the movie because of that.
No question.
But that was like a warm lead in. Like we've joked about this. You remember back in the late 80s, early we'll say the 90s, mid 90s, the television show that was between Friends at 8 o'clock and Seinfeld at 9 o'clock, the 8:30 time slot was like the no-brainer time slot of network television.
Yeah.
Like you could have put, dogs licking each other on the television in that half-hour time slot between those two shows,
each other,
and it would have done well. That was like the warmest of warm lead-ins for that movie. I'm not saying that's the reason it was successful. I'm saying it had a large part, large reason why it was successful.
And I would say a hot spot.
And we've seen what that character's done since then, by the way.
Right.
Okay. And this is what you were alluding to earlier. Avengers Endgame then comes out, and during the final fight scene of Avengers Endgame, which is one of the best half hour of Marvel comic cinematic history, that final fight scene that took like 45 minutes. During that scene, there was a moment where Spider-Man's got the Infinity Gauntlet and he's trying to transport it to the Ant-Man's van so they can, put it back in time or do whatever they need to do to get rid of it. And he's getting beat up, and Captain Marvel flies up to him and says, "I've got this, Spider-Man," and then gets surrounded by every female character that's ever been in a Marvel movie.
It was awkward.
It was, I want to use the right word here.
It was awkward.
It
A little
was
cringy.
cringeworthy.
It was cringeworthy.
When we were in the theaters watching it, we saw that, we're like, oh my God.
Like it was just kind of weird how it was almost like it was written in on purpose. Like it didn't flow with what was happening to the battle.
Somebody told them to do it.
Yeah.
There was an agenda. It was a self-serving, agenda-driven scene in the movie.
Nothing against any of those characters.
I guarantee the Russo brothers would have never done that.
Agree.
Had they not been told to do it.
Agree.
It had no plot worthy, and these characters, it's not like these female characters had worked together before or were aligned with each other. As a matter of fact, Pepper Potts had a brand new suit that, oh my God, she's got like these great, incredible,
awkward, cringeworthy.
It was
suit and her showing up in the suit.
Everybody who's seen that scene knows it was manufactured.
Yeah.
It was a manufactured scene trying to say, hey, we've got strong female superheroes here too. And that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there shouldn't be strong female superheroes. What I'm saying is that scene was meant to put those women together in front of us as a way to say females are superheroes too.
Inclusion.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. And that, we agree, that was like one of the worst examples of
it.
This.
It was cringy. It just like it didn't flow with the movie. Like it was like, huh? What just happened? It was weird.
So Endgame happens. Black Widow dies in spoiler alert. Black Widow dies in Endgame. However, we find out that she's getting her own movie. Oh, really? This is kind of weird. How are they going to do that? Well, it's going to be kind of a time swap movie. We didn't slot this in during the MCU timeline where it should have been slotted in. We're going to do it after Endgame because we feel like we owe her. I guess that was kind of some of the sentiment that she was owed her own project and never got her own project. And we're going to do it in a time frame that happens between Infinity War and Endgame, or between Civil War and Infinity War, something like that, right? Yeah. It happened in the past. Featured a mostly female cast, right? We got Natasha Romanoff, we got Elena Belova, we got her mother, and we also got a gender-swapped Taskmaster.
Yeah.
When you and I and everybody else saw the trailers for this movie, and we saw a Taskmaster riding in the truck and sticking out and shooting the arrow underneath and blowing it up, and everyone, oh, this cool Taskmaster is going to be in this movie. Fantastic. Movie revealed. Oh, just happens to be another female from the Red Room who's now the Taskmaster, the daughter of the Red Room guy who runs the Red Room.
Oh, the worst villain of any superhero movie.
And the movie bombed. Now, a lot of the defenders will say, oh, well, it was released in 2020 during a pandemic and the theaters were closed. And
probably had a little bit to do with it.
It went straight to streaming and the theaters at the same time. And nobody went to go see it because it was a pandemic. And I'm going to tell you something. True. And I'm sure it had a lot to do with the success that movie had in the box office. Absolutely. The critics were not friendly.
No.
Nobody liked that movie. It suffered from poor writing, poor character development. And again, it seemed to me to be a movie that was driving an agenda to put strong female characters out in front when I don't know who, I guess maybe they felt like they had to do it. It hadn't been done yet.
I think that, Scarlett Johansson was promised a feature film because then some of her pay based on the way they released it, streaming, she felt like she got shortcutted.
She got hosed.
Because
she was supposed to get a percentage of the box office return.
Right.
And
they put it straight to streaming and that wasn't available.
Yeah.
And nor did
she ended up suing Marvel because of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They ended up settling.
But again, I think that giving her own movie, I think, is not a bad thing. I think she deserved her own movie.
Agree.
But how they did it and how they chose to, present it to us, I think fell short. And again, it seemed agenda driven to me. You got to call somebody back?
No, I'm just
all right.
Fixing the timer.
Okay. So that was that example. Loki season 1 features a gender swapped variant of Loki, Sylvie. I thought this was another successful example of a way to bring a strong female character into a television show or a program or whatever you want to call it successfully. Nobody was like, oh, why would they make it a female? I thought it was done very well.
Right.
And this was an example of how to do it successfully.
Yeah.
You don't need to force it down our throats. Just do it organically and let it be done the right way with good writing and good acting. We'll accept it. So again, another example of maybe they wanted to bring more females or portray more females in these projects. Fine. This is a great example of how to do it correctly. Right? I thought that was really, really well done.
Yeah.
We all like the Sylvie character. Another example where it was done really well. Wanda Maximoff character, Scarlet Witch, had been featured in Age of Ultron, and then ultimately in Infinity War and Endgame. Kind of a popular character, really well liked, and they're like, hey, we think she deserves her own project. And they made one when we started the show. One of the first things we did was review the first episode of WandaVision. It was great.
Yeah.
Another example of where they did it right. It wasn't an agenda-driven show. It was take a good actor who plays a good character, write some good story around it, and give it to the audience and let them give you their own
great
opinion.
history in the comics. I think a lot of fans wanted to see more Scarlet Witch. And that's another thing, a lot of fans want to see these A-list characters in these shows, not B-list characters or C-list characters having their own shows.
Well, and let me defend Marvel a little bit here, because I think some of the strongest and best developed female characters that Marvel Comics has happen to be part of the X-Men team that were owned by Fox for a long, long time. Now, Marvel's owned those characters for years now and done nothing with them. Fox did a lot with them. I mean, look at all the Fox X-Men movies. How many female characters were in that? A lot. Mm-hmm. And they all did very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is where we've seen some grasping from Marvel, is that, all right, we need to get a really good, strong female character and put it in this movie, or we need to get a really strong female character and develop a TV show around them. I think had they done that with an X-Men character who was well-established, had a long, rich history, I think we would have gravitated towards it very well. But they're plucking characters that nobody asked for. Right. Nobody really demands.
Correct.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out next and featured, again, this, in the defense of Falcon and Winter Soldier, came out, came out during the pandemic, had a storyline and a plot that was driven around a global pandemic. They had to shift bases here. And however, the primary villains of this program were the Flag Smashers, who were, kind of activists, and right. They all happen to be super soldiers. Well, the leader of the Flag Smashers was a female. Mm-hmm. I didn't find her compelling, scary, dangerous, somebody to fear, it was just not well written.
Not
well
that
acted.
A strong female character couldn't be all those things. It's just
that
writing
was
not. The writing was weak on that character. And it was forced. I think it was really forced.
Exactly. Then we get Thor: Love and Thunder, where we get featured Jane Foster wielding Mjolnir, becoming, Lady Thor. Again, there is a history of this in the comic book, so I wasn't really adverse to this. I didn't think that was a bad idea. I think that movie suffered from poor writing. It seemed like the actors kind of phoned it in. We know Taika Waititi definitely phoned it in a little bit on that movie. He was under a lot of pressure to get the project done, and he just didn't seem like his heart was in it. And that movie basically flopped a lot.
Yeah, that movie was bad.
And I mean, just wasted a great villain in Gore the God Butcher. Never really developed him. Never really made him the haunting, God killing character that he could have been.
Right.
It was just bad along the way. But I'm saying there was some. Oh, and I forgot to mention at the end of Endgame, the end credit scene of Endgame, Valkyrie becomes the king of Asgard, by the way, which we saw in Thor: Love and Thunder. She's now the king of Asgard.
The king.
Right.
Okay.
King of Asgard.
Mm-hmm.
Kate Bishop is introduced as the new Hawkeye in the Hawkeye series on Disney Plus. I didn't mind it. I think, and again, there is history behind this. There is comic book history behind the Kate Bishop character and her relationship with Hawkeye and her taking over the mantle of Hawkeye and, being part of the Young Avengers. And, Haley Steinfeld, like the actress, you think she did very well with the role. I wouldn't say this was an unsuccessful example, but it did seem like it was manufactured.
I'd like this example. I think it worked. Again, Kate Bishop, really strong character.
But
for the
he
Young
wasn't
Avengers.
asked to do it all.
No.
If they had done a Kate Bishop Hawkeye series that was just
with
Kate
no
Bishop,
Jeremy Renner, it would have been
Renner,
tough.
right.
Yeah, Renner, yeah. It would have been tough.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we get Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And the new character they choose to reveal to us in this movie that's a big part of the plot happens to be a lesbian character from the comic books, America Chavez, who, in the movie, we get to see her living on her world with her two mothers.
Right. A newer character.
Very new.
Very new.
Yeah.
To the comic book history.
Nobody was clamoring for America Chavez.
No, I think it was part
of...
I
didn't say nobody. Most fans weren't clamoring for
I think it was a character that they wanted to represent for some reason in this movie. But
yeah. Then we get She-Hulk, gets her own series. Probably the personification of the pussification of the Hulk character. Gets his ass kicked by his sister.
Yeah. Cousin.
Yeah. Professor Hulk is just, wearing
cardigans and
cardigan sweaters and coming to a barbecue in a Hawaiian shirt and all that.
When they were training, some of that was cool, and that was about it. The rest of it, yes, I get that it followed the comics pretty strictly, but no one asked for this. I think the She-Hulk should have been brought in.
They could have brought the She-Hulk
Black Widow
in. They could have brought the She-Hulk character in, made her part of Avengers 5 or Captain America: Brave New World, and we would have loved
even
the
Wonder
character.
Man.
Do a special presentation.
Yes.
That was the first episode of She-Hulk. Just do a special presentation, shows you who the character is, what she does for a living. She's a lawyer. She gets her powers from her cousin because his blood gets in her during a car accident. Do all that, right?
In a special presentation.
And then put her in the next Captain America movie.
People went nuts for this She-Hulk. I don't get it. But people went nuts for this series, and
I like the character. I wanted to see this. This character's
too.
been on the Fantastic Four. This is a good character, and they just kind of ruined it a little bit with
the writing was sloppy.
It's terrible.
It was lazy, and it was twerking. Please, it really missed the mark. And what they did with Hulk is criminal. It's absolutely criminal what they've done to the Hulk character, and the writing for the Hulk.
Agreed. This is probably one that really, I think, probably the first one that kind of spoke to us of like, what the F is going on? We find out that Marvel's doing a Disney Plus series on the Ms. Marvel character. And when I first saw this, I was like, okay, I can kind of see this. A newer character for sure. One that's, newer to the comic books.
A C-level character.
But yeah, see, I said, okay, I can see this. And I can see why they would want to do this. This is a Muslim American teenager who gets superpowers and all this other stuff. But they completely change her backstory of how she got her powers because it wasn't convenient for them to make her an Inhuman and get it through the Terrigen Mist and all that other stuff. They'll make it convenient to make her a mutant. Hello, use that word for the first time in the MCU. Are you kidding me? And then there's a bangle that helps unlock her powers and all this stuff. And I was like, are you? And the way the powers looked it's just so bad.
Yeah.
The show was bad, people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And oh, by the way, Marvel and Disney thought it was so important that while most Disney Plus content is not available outside of the United States, Ms. Marvel was.
Right.
It was farmed out all around the world.
Right.
And it is the only, let me repeat this, the only Disney Plus series that's ever been featured on national television. They took this entire series and put it on ABC for everybody to watch because they felt so strongly about it.
And the streaming numbers were horrific. Even if
there was nothing to justify doing that.
No.
Zero.
No.
There was nothing to justify. Let's put it on national television. It was so well received. Everybody loved it. Let's put it on. So here's a good example. Yellowstone. Wonderful show. It's been on the Paramount Network since its inception. And everybody's fallen in love with it. It's a national, everybody, it's like a Game of Thrones kind of, everybody loves Yellowstone. It does well. Great. So what did CBS do? CBS said, hey, it's done really well for us on the Paramount Network. We'll release it on CBS so everybody can kind of catch up and see all the episodes they missed, even if they don't have the Paramount Network. So then maybe it'll get them to buy the Paramount Network when the next season comes out.
Right.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And it was justified. There was nothing that justified them saying, if they had released WandaVision to national television, we'd have been like, it's brilliant, brilliant move. We got to get people to watch this. It's so good. Right.
Yeah.
But they chose this one. Obviously, that was an agenda-driven decision
to make the character more popular than what it was,
and to feature in this character and show that Marvel is featuring this character on national television. And I don't know what the national TV ratings were for it. I guarantee it wasn't good.
No.
So that was one of the most clear examples of this.
By the way, love that actress. I think she's phenomenal. But the character was weak. It's not a lead character. It's a C-level superhero, period.
I'll say Iman Vellani has put her heart and soul into this character and has worked really hard to do as well as she can with the character. I don't think she's a great actress. I find her a bit annoying, but I can tell you she has never phoned anything in.
No.
She really was so excited to be cast in this role, and has done a great job of doing everything she can to make the character good. I'm saying what they did to the character, changing the powers and the entire backstory and the history and just in a way that, number one, this was a C-list character that not many people were familiar with to begin with. And then you take whatever familiarity we had with this character and throw it out the window and give us something brand new and different. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? So Chadwick Boseman unfortunately passes away. Huge loss. I thought he was an amazing Black Panther. Amazing. I mean,
great.
And from what we understand,
amazing person.
From what we understand, they had some massive plans around how they were going to center the future of the MCU around Spider-Man, Black Panther, a couple of characters. And he was one of the ones that they were banking on being part of the MCU for a long time. And as a matter of fact, the original Black Panther movie was a great example. One of my favorite MCU movies, a great example where diversity and putting diverse cultures on the screen the right way works.
Mm-hmm.
They had featured, a country in Africa that was unlike any other country in the world, and put these people on this technological and financial pedestal, the whole community of Wakanda that, many African Americans had never seen that portrayed before. And it was so successful and was nominated for an Oscar. I mean, it did so well. And I'm saying that was a great example of where it works. Had strong female characters in the movie as well. It was great. But when he passed away, we all wondered this. They chose not to recast the character, even though we knew that they had big plans for the Black Panther character and T'Challa specifically. that were all derailed because of his passing. And they're like, and the reason behind the decision not to recast was, well, we don't want to tarnish his legacy.
Hmm.
Right? That was the reason we were given. We want to pay the proper respects, not tarnish his legacy. So the choice they made was to say, well, instead of recasting the character, we're going to take his sister, Shuri, and make her the new Black Panther. And I was like, okay.
Happened in the comics.
For a brief, short period of time.
Short period of time.
Yeah, you know, she did a few things that warranted her to kind of
Temporarily
pick up the mantle of Black Panther. So there is history for that, but T'Challa was still alive. He just wasn't the Black Panther at the time. It wasn't like he passed away. So they kind of chose this path. And I'm not saying Letitia Wright did poorly. As a matter of fact, she's one of the biggest bright spots of the original Black Panther movie. But did she warrant a leading role in a major film like this at that point in time in her career? Or had she developed herself as a character that could carry that movie? And I know, look, my wife's one of the people. She's like, oh, I love that movie. She was fantastic. I'm like, great. Glad you loved it. I really am. Glad you loved it. I didn't think it was that successful.
You know, in my mind, I give it a pass because of the unusual
Because of the
circumstance,
situation.
because of the situation it was in. Did I love the movie? No. Did I love the villain in that movie or the anti-hero in that movie? Yes. I thought bringing in Namor
is just
bringing
awesome.
in Namor the way they did sideways like that
with the
unbelievable.
The Central American history and everything.
Even that character, probably one of the oldest characters in Marvel's history, the oldest characters. They changed the Atlantis. They changed that whole thing successfully. Great writing, great way to do it. They had to pivot, and not one of my favorite movies. Love that character. I think between you and me, I think they should have recast Black Panther.
Look, and we said this before, Titanium. There have been countless examples in the MCU where they've chosen to diverge from comic book history for one reason or another, whether it was plot reasons or we need to make sure it fits into the larger storyline. We can't, we're not going to, give Ms. Marvel her powers or Captain Marvel her powers from the anti-magnetron or whatever, whatever the thing, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Those were creative ways to do this. Same thing with Namor. They couldn't,
copy
what was done in the comics because it would seem too much like the Aquaman movie.
Aquaman was already out, already made $1 billion.
And so, look, you can do that. We're not saying don't do that. Don't diverge from you can. Just do it properly.
Yeah.
Be creative about it.
Yeah. Not some space bangle.
And then Secret Invasion. This was another example. They hire a very popular actress to play a role in this television series they released on Disney Plus, Secret Invasion. She had an enormous amount of success on Game of Thrones. And she ends up being at the last episode, becoming a Super Skrull with all of the powers of every hero that bled on the battlefield at Endgame. Probably the most powerful character in the history of the MCU.
Well, I disagree with you. Because Gravik, yeah, he got those same powers.
But she defeated him.
But she blew a hole in him with her Captain Marvel powers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Captain Marvel's powers are DNA based?
Are they? So bizarre. Like that whole thing. I think what they tried to do is they tried to make a Super Skrull. And the Super Skrull, as we know, was from the Fantastic Four. So they did this hybrid Super Skrull story that ruined Secret Invasion. The whole spy thriller was very good.
But she was able to get Drax's arm.
So awful. I mean, it was like that last episode. It kind of reminded me of the end credit scenes of Morbius. Ruined the movie. The movie's not bad. It's not great. It's not bad. But the end credit scene is so cringeworthy and awkward. It ruined the movie. So
exactly. Then we get a new series on Disney Plus called What If, which I think we both seasons, season 1 and season 2, we both thought were well done.
Yeah.
However, there was a character who was featured in season 1, not Agent Carter, Captain Carter. They took the Captain Carter, they did a what if of Peggy Carter got the super soldier serum instead of Steve Rogers. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can get behind that. And the episode was really successful and people liked it. And then they put her in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Okay, I see that, whatever. And then season 2 of What If comes out and they're like, okay, she's like the greatest superhero in the multiverse. Like they centered everything around her.
Yeah.
I mean, so much so that you and I noticed it. We're like, okay, this is a little much now.
Didn't she? I mean, that's the first thing I said to you. I was like, wait a minute. In that finale, did she hold an Infinity Stone? She grabbed an Infinity Stone. That's a little weird.
She had all of the Infinity Stones like on her.
Yeah.
Wasn't some special glove that Eitri created to
Right.
contain the power of the Infinity Stones. It just like was on her body.
Yeah. Bizarre. Yeah.
Hey, writers.
How do you feel about the new character, Kahori
Kahori
in that?
You and I said this when we reviewed What If. A great example of if you want strong female leading characters in the MCU, then just write them.
Right.
If there's no comic book character you want to feature, or the comic book characters you want to feature aren't very good, then create a new one that is good. And they did.
Yeah.
I loved Kahori.
Awesome.
I can't wait. I hope we see her in live action.
I'd love to. Yeah.
That'd be great.
I've said it several
good
times.
example of, hey, great. Create a female character.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, the two of them were the ones fighting Doctor Strange at the end of What If. Though,
yeah.
Right. And then, we got the two biggest examples of just agenda-driven content that flops. We get the Marvels this past fall, featuring 3 characters that, Captain Marvel may be a B-list character, but Photon / the original Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel, C-list characters for sure. For some reason, they wanted to put them all on screen together, bring us the probably worst villain ever in the MCU, with no backstory, no history, no character development, not threatening at all.
Yeah. Being dull.
Yeah. And just put and of course, you get a cameo from Valkyrie in the movie. I mean, it was just such a self-serving, agenda-driven movie, and it did horrible.
Yeah.
In the box office. Worst performing movie in MCU history.
Yep.
Worst.
Awful.
It just, that was just a clear example of an agenda-driven movie from my perspective.
And listen, folks, we're not misogynistic up here. I mean, we're all for strong female and female superheroes.
We've said this. The original Wonder Woman.
But it's being jammed down our throat in a very uncomfortable and ridiculous agenda-driven way that doesn't make sense to us. Now, I'm not a big fan of this label, fanboy. I think there's fans, period, for this genre. Fanboy, if you want to say that, whatever. You are alienating majority of people like us that are fanboys. And they're not just white men either. They're African Americans, there's females, there's all kinds of fanboys across genders, across races. You're alienating those people. Do you think a fanboy, just because he's African American, doesn't like Captain America being white? No, that's not it. Not at all. So what we're getting at here, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that there is a obvious agenda at Disney that's being jammed down fanboy or fans' throats that we're not asking for. And thank God they're seeing the repercussions of it.
Well, and again, that's if people are asking for this, the returns would be identical, if not better. If there was such a high demand for this.
Professor, that was the most profound statement I've ever heard you make. That is absolutely correct.
Yeah, it's like if and again, if we as the fans were like, hey, we love what you're doing. It's fantastic. I mean, we obviously are killing it in the box office. Could you do these things too? Because that would be awesome. And if they did those and we spend even more money, then they would be successful. But number one, we're not the ones asking for this stuff. They're choosing to do it for us, thinking that either we should have this, even though we've never asked for it, or we need to do this because it's the right thing to do. Okay. Well, guess what? You're going to feel the impact of this. And you're going to get slammed in the reviews. You're going to have people not showing up to the theaters. You're going to get people like us telling you how much it sucks.
And you're going to have a proxy vote from your shareholders that will not go well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, and Echo is like the icing on the cake, featuring a Native American, hearing impaired, disabled female lead character, and they completely bastardized the character's history, backstory, power set, and everything to be an agenda-driven one of, no, she doesn't have this ability to kind of copy what she sees like she does in the comic books, which for the most part she did in the Hawkeye series.
Which
then
was
all of a
great.
sudden they bring her on this thing and like, she doesn't do that anymore. Here's what she does.
She's got
There's going to
glowy
be this
hands.
long line of
Magic.
these amazing, strong female Choctaw Indians that you know, she's along this line, and we're going to feature all of them. And oh, by the way, you know, the females never played freaking lacrosse in the Choctaw Indian tribe. I mean, it's just, and that scene was just so bad.
That cringeworthy scene. Please don't talk about that.
I mean, it was just such an agenda-driven,
So cringe.
self-serving show. It
And I
just
love
was.
lacrosse.
And look, you know, you and I watched a video on YouTube about this in the early week. I can't remember who did it, but man, just that montage he did up front of all the statements from all of the writers and the producers and the directors and everything about, you know, the statements, you know.
William D'Onofrio even said, well, Echo, you know, I gave what they wrote me. You know, they wrote,
I'm an actor.
Yeah, I'm an actor. So I did whatever they put in front of me. I kind of felt like he was lackluster about how, which by the way, the Kingpin was pussified
again
in that, like the Hulk, he was pussified. He wasn't menacing. He wasn't ominous. Was he a Thanos level villain in Echo? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, anyway.
And let's use Daredevil to promote the series and have him in there for 2 minutes and 32 seconds.
Was it 2 minutes?
Yeah,
I thought it was just a few seconds. It was unbelievable. And the MATV, we've already done a whole episode about this.
Go back and listen to our last episode.
I don't want to get back into it.
But again, the more you think about it, it's like, check all the boxes. This was written by, we have Native Americans on the writing staff. We have hearing impaired people on the writing staff. It was all about representation and diversity and inclusion.
By the way, I'm okay with, but they missed the mark. They missed the mark on the whole history of the Indian nation, and they just did it all wrong. I don't see it. I really don't. And
it was agenda driven. I mean, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
And again, bad example of changing a character's history and their powers because it was done to serve an obvious agenda.
Okay.
That's what bothered me the most. If you want to change your powers and change your backstory, fantastic. Do it.
Or write a new character that has the powers and things that you want to see.
If they had done the Echo series with Kahori,
instead of Echo done a Kahori series,
we would have been fine with it.
Oh God, yeah, that's a great character. Whoever wrote that character, kudos. That that character,
but awesome. That would have been acceptable. This is a new character.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. We've been going on a long time. I know this is a long episode. People really appreciate you sticking with us. If you have stuck with us this long, a lot of you probably clicked off or turned us off or whatever. But look, I think Titanium, what we're saying is we're angry because we love these characters.
Yes.
We love this business. We love this industry.
We love this genre.
And frankly, we loved what Marvel did for 10 years. And they've completely gone off the rails and to a point where it's not enjoyable anymore. And we've enjoyed content from other providers like Amazon, and, you know, what they've done with Invincible and The Boys and Gen V. We've enjoyed that way more than anything for Marvel.
Yeah.
And look, they're off track and they got to fix this, because if you don't recapture this core audience, look, we're going to Comic-Con in July. We're still big fans. We're fans of the genre, fans of the industry. We're going to go, we're going to support it. But if we go there and we don't like what we hear, you got to get the fan base reignited and excited again about what you're doing.
Yeah, they've lost a lot, and a lot of it. I'm hoping we're hearing. Here's the good news, folks. The good news is they're slowing down. They're slowing down projects. They've canceled a lot of projects. They've fired a lot of writers. They're rewriting a lot of stuff moving forward.
Well, Victoria Alonso was fired after Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania got killed in the box office because she was blamed for a lot of the, they were slave labor in the VFX department and all kinds of other stuff that she was doing. But
she's a tyrant. I mean, from what industry insiders say, she was a tyrant.
I'm saying she was probably fired for other reasons. But if she was one of the people in the company pushing an agenda, and a lot of what we've seen come out over the last year and a half, 2 years was a product of that agenda that she was pushing, and she's no longer there. Maybe her not being there means the stuff we're getting going forward won't be that way.
Whether you like it or not, Disney is a business, and their main objective is to make money. That's what businesses do. To put out an unbelievable high quality product and to make money on it. And as far as I'm concerned, they're not making money and they're not putting out high quality products. So hopefully there is a turning point. But I will tell you this, Professor, yours is Deadpool. Mine is right around the corner. If we go to Comic-Con and we don't see a significant change or something that changes my mind,
it's got to be a mindset and a shift in the energy that they bring,
correct,
and the announcements they make.
I might just be doing this podcast about the boys.
Yeah, we'll do whenever the boys season comes out. We'll do those, and we'll pick and choose what we talk about because, frankly, it's not fun talking about these things that we don't like.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I will make the next series that comes out from Disney Plus. If we watch the first, I think it's going to be X-Men 97, I believe is the next thing, which I'm super excited about as well, by the way, because I love that original animated series and I hope they do very well with it. But if it comes out and it's not great or it's not very good, we don't need to review it.
No,
we'll just wait till it's over. We'll review the whole thing like we did with Echo.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll just make some adjustments on the show. I mean, look, when we had to go through the whole Ms. Marvel season, we had to go through the whole season. I mean, talking about that show every week, it was just like
brutal.
Hard.
Yeah, very hard.
All right,
Professor. Let's ring the bell. School's over. You get everything off your chest? Is there anything else?
Yeah.
You feel better?
We got to run.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week for more Super Talk. To get in touch with us on social media, hit us up via email, supertalkpodcast@outlook.com or @supertalkpod on Twitter. Until then, stay super, everyone.
Corner on the top of the man.